What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. I am Ken. Today, guys, we are here to review, to be honest, guys, one of the greatest Western films of all time that I am so glad I finally got to experience for the first time just a couple of years ago. And that is Once Upon a Time in the West, directed by the great, legendary Sergio Leone. This one actually comes out on May the 14th, so I got an early review copy of this one so I can let you guys know if this is worth picking up or not. One thing I do want to call out, though, is that this thing was going for $37.99. It is currently, I want to say on sale, but this is the pre-order price. It's currently on sale for $30.79 right now on Amazon. So I will link that down below. I don't know if that price is going to stay, if it's going to come out, if it's going to go up. And I'll just go ahead and say it up front. I did get this in from Paramount to review and talk about with you guys. There's some controversy here. There's some other people that have gotten this in. And the controversy's out. It's already out. It's going on in the world because as soon as I posted this on my Instagram like 3 days ago, I didn't even know anybody had gotten this yet. I thought I was one of the first. Right away, I get somebody that comments, I hear the transfer's crap. So it's already started, and it's Paramount. People like to pile on Paramount. So yeah, there's controversy. So I just want to let you guys know up front, but we will get into it. I will let you guys know, as always, my honest thoughts on this 4K. Let's go ahead and jump into the actual film itself. And this is a movie that came out in 1968. So as of last year, it was celebrating its, can I do math real quick in my head, 55th anniversary. So this is the 56th anniversary of this movie. And like I said, this is directed by Sergio Leone. But one fun fact about this film that I actually didn't know, I had no idea until it started and I saw the credits flashing across the screen. But apparently this was co-written. The story was co-written by Dario Argento. And another person, I don't have their name wrote down, so I can't talk about them. They're nobody that I was familiar with before, but Sergio Leone, this other guy, and Dario Argento wrote the story, and then the other guy and Sergio Leone wrote the screenplay. But I just thought it was really cool that Argento, who's known primarily for horror in Italy, like he's done Suspiria and Deep Red and Tenebrae and Phenomena, some of my favorite horror films of all time, at this point, was responsible for the story, for part of the story for Once Upon a Time in the West. And make no mistake, this is 100% directed by Sergio Leone, a spaghetti western, but it does have a lot of American influence as well because it has two big American actors in this movie. You got Henry Fonda in the film, and you also got Charles Bronson, and I think Jason Robards is an American actor as well. So you got three big time. Well, at this point in time, like Charles Bronson wasn't big time, but Henry Fonda certainly was. And Jason Robards, I'm not exactly sure. I'm not as familiar with him. I know he's been in some other stuff I've seen. But you have all these three like big actors in this movie. And then you have Claudia Cardinelli. I got that name right. I hope I got that name right. She's the one that I always forget. I don't forget her face. I don't forget her looks, but I always forget her name when I talk about this movie. And she's in the film as well, and she's excellent. I think she was in a lot of these types of movies at this time as well. But yeah, you have these four great actors leading this film, and I would say that it's really all four of them. I don't feel like one takes the spotlight from the other. I feel like all four of these actors in the movie complement each other and build each other up, and they're all starring performances in this film, as far as I'm concerned. And that's why, honestly, I think they're all on the cover. This is an epic Western film. Like, this is one of the most epic, the movie's almost 3 hours long. It just feels big. It feels massive, this entire movie. It just feels like it's on such a grand scale. From the same director as the Dollars trilogy, this feels like the culmination, the peak of what Sergio Leone built upon with the Dollars trilogy. And he got to this movie from those movies. I know a lot of people would say, I think a lot of people would say that The Good, the Bad, the Ugly is Leone's best film, his masterpiece. I actually like A Fistful of Dollars, and for a few dollars more, a little bit more than that movie. I do like The Good, the Bad, the Ugly a lot, but I actually would take it a step further and say that he peaked, he culminated with Once Upon a Time in the West. I think this is his masterpiece. It's his epic film. The movie just feels big, like it just feels grand and unlike anything else that I've seen from that director. And it's such a great collection of characters just coming together in this film. You got Henry Fonda, who played a villain, I believe, for maybe the very first time. Like, he was actually a little reluctant to take the role in this film because he was not used to playing the bad guy. And but you know, Sergio Leone wanted him to play the bad guy. He wanted him to go against his type, and he plays such an excellent villain in this movie. I think he's so freaking phenomenal as Frank in the film. Super sinister, super scary. Like when Frank comes in, like, you know, some stuff's gonna happen. Shit's gonna get real when Frank comes on screen. But I also think Charles Bronson in this movie is freaking awesome. He was just getting started. I mean, he plays the character of the harmonica. That's what his character name is, because he goes around playing the harmonica. He doesn't talk a lot. He doesn't have a lot of speaking lines in this film, but his presence, his charisma, is definitely there. Like when he enters the room, you know it. And that's the thing I love about the movie. All the characters just feel so larger than life. They just feel so grand. The movie, like I said, guys, is a big film. It just feels like a big film. Everybody just feels so grand. It's so massive. Charles Bronson plays really kind of an anti-hero. Like he's kind of a dick in some scenes, and then in other scenes he's kind of sweet, and he's trying to care for Jill McBain, who is, you know, Claudia Cardinale's character in the movie. So he has like two sides to him, but I would say he's more of an anti-hero type, and you understand more about his character as you go along in the film. And then you got Jason Robards, who is kind of set up to be this other villainous type character, but he really turns out to be like maybe the best, like most good-natured person in the whole film, as Cheyenne. And then Claudia Cardinale is just such a force to be reckoned with in this film. Such a great, tough female character. Like she doesn't take any crap. Like she knows how to maneuver her way through these situations, but when it comes down to it, like her character doesn't take no shit. And I think she's like all business, just tough, badass chick in this movie, and she looks great doing it along the way. So I think this has such a great style. It's Leone, of course. I just feel like he had mastered his entire skill set as a director, and every shot in this movie, I feel like it just has purpose and meaning, and it needs to be there. And I know some people would say the pacing of this film is a little bit slow, and I could see how you would say that, because there's a lot of scenes that just do feel like they're drug out a little bit. I love them though, because I feel like Leone is such a great visual director that even when you're lingering on these like certain shots for a specific amount of time, there's this one shot, like the beginning, guys. The beginning, for example, there's just a bunch of shots of these guys kind of sitting around a train station for about 15 minutes. But it's so captivating. It's so engaging. Just the way that he shoots all these scenes that you don't mind. Like I don't mind that these scenes really add up to nothing, like story-wise, but there's like little stories going on with like each specific scene. So I think it has meaning and purpose and needs to be there. But again, I can see like if that doesn't matter to you, if it doesn't resonate with you specifically, I can see why you would think this movie was a little bit slow. Me, I'm just drawn into every single moment all throughout this film. I love everything about it. But all that being said, let's jump into the 4K picture quality here, the actual transfer itself. And like I said, guys, there is some controversy with this release. Now, I will say up front, I did not own the Blu-ray release. The only experience I have with this movie on Blu-ray is with this Paramount Presents release, which I did pop on that Blu-ray and check it out for just a little bit. Didn't watch the whole thing because I just watched the movie on 4K, so I wasn't going to watch it again on Blu-ray, but I did check out some specific scenes on Blu-ray just to see how they compared within this specific release. I never owned the Blu-ray itself. I never owned the DVD. The first time I watched this film was on Hulu a couple of years ago when I watched it for the first time. So I can't really do a genuine comparison of that Blu-ray release set that came out a few years ago. But what I can tell you is this is not perfect. It's not perfect. And to be completely honest, I'm a little bit disappointed by the picture quality here because it's just not like those other 4K Western movies that I am used to. I'm used to seeing Western movies in 4K look a specific way. And this one doesn't look as filmic or as natural as some of those other Western movies in 4K. And I'm thinking of movies like A Fistful of Dollars for a few dollars more, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, Django from Arrow Video, which I think is the gold standard when it comes to these classic Western restorations. This is not of that quality. Now, I'm not saying that this movie doesn't look good. It looks good, but the problem here is that Paramount, and this is the criticism of Paramount, and I'm not going to pretend to know all the details. I told you guys I'm not a professional video, audio review guy. I'm just not. I like talking about these releases, but I really can't get into all that technical stuff all that much. But from what people are saying, they just DNR'd this one a little bit too much. It's a little bit too clean. it's a little bit too smooth. And I can see that. I can honestly see that. It does look a little bit too smooth throughout. Now, it's not James Cameron level bad. If you want to say those are bad, I know I was mostly positive on those releases, but it's not like the film grain is completely removed. There is some still intact. It does look pretty filmic overall, I would say, but it is a little bit too clean for my taste, if that makes any sense. And I'm sure there's people out there that's like, that's what I want. I want the movie to be super clean, cleaned up. I want to be able to see everything. I don't want the grain in there. I don't like the grain. You'll be happy. You'll be happy with this 4K because it looks great. Other than that, now I do think as far as the HDR and the Dolby Vision, it looks great. All the colors are greatly improved and enhanced, and everything has great depth in it. And I think it does look pretty natural throughout. It just doesn't look as good as I think that it could look. And that's where the controversy is going to come from, because you have a movie like this that a lot of people hold to such a high standard. They wanted that Fistful of Dollars restoration. They wanted that Django from Arrow Video restoration. And instead we got what feels to be a little bit subpar compared to those 4K releases. And another thing you got to note here is that this is on a 66 gigabyte disc. And for me, when I'm watching this, I'm always like clicking the display to see like what megabytes per second it's running at. And this was running between like 40 and 50 throughout. So not a very high bit rate when I'm watching this one throughout, which, you know, was a little bit disappointing to see. I always like to see that number much higher, at least at the 60 threshold. I like to see that number when I'm watching it, because it just feels like I'm getting that better picture quality when it's running over 60. It just looks better on my OLED TV. So, but this one, like I said, runs between 40 and 50. It was down in the 20s at one point, and I think the big reason for that is that Paramount's decided to put this one on a 66 gigabyte disc, which they usually do for all their 4Ks. There's really not a lot of 4Ks that they don't do that to. I honestly can't think of one example. But the problem here is that this is a 3-hour movie. So when you try to compress it down to a 66 gigabyte disc, then it's not going to run at the highest bit rate that it could. It's not going to look the best that it could. So they really, really should have used a 100 gigabyte disc. And I understand Paramount doesn't really do that. But like if you gave this to Kino, if you gave this to Arrow Video, like they would have done that. And this would have looked so much better in their hands. So I get that criticism that people have. That all that being said, guys, all that being said, it's not an awful transfer. It really doesn't make or break the release for me. Like I still think it's a strong transfer. I still think it looks good. And if I had the choice to watch this over the Blu-ray, over streaming, I'm going to watch this release every single time. But it is disappointing that it's not of the level that Django and Fistful of Dollars. So it's just a little disappointing that it feels like Paramount's, cuts those corners, that they had the opportunity here to put this very long movie on a 100 gigabyte disc and maybe make it look a little bit better, not apply so much DNR, not make it look so smooth, keep that film grain in there, that natural film grain to help it retain that natural look. They had the opportunity to do all these things and they didn't do it. They didn't give this release the treatment that it deserved, but they didn't do it completely dirty either, if that makes any sense. It's still a solid restoration. I can still recommend it, but it's just not the best that it could be. And getting into the audio, guys, this does have a DTS HD Master Audio 5.1. It also has that Dolby Digital Mono, and I had no issues with the sound. I'm just listening to this on a soundbar that kind of simulates that 5.1 and that Dolby Atmos, and I thought everything sounded great throughout. Like I said, the music in this film is absolutely fantastic. There's a lot of great shootout sequences and stuff that sound great. But yeah, no issues with the sound. Let's do a little bit of an unboxing right here. I am a big fan of this cover art. I think this artwork is fantastic that Paramount did. So that is definitely one really good thing I can say about it. And look, guys, I like that we're 4 years. We're 4 years into Paramount Presents, and it is still going strong. I like that this line is still going, because there was a couple of times when I thought this line was going to end. And we are on spine number 44 right now, and they're really choosing some prestige films to put in this line, and Chinatown's coming in June. So I'm definitely excited about that. We got the silver spine right there because all the Paramount Presents 4Ks, which seems to be all we're getting at this point. I can't remember the last time we got a Blu-ray from Paramount Presents. But it has the silver spines on the 4Ks. And then I'll show you the back right there. We'll get into the special features here in a second, but I like all the images on the back. And then you got the Paramount Presents like mission statement right here that's on all these releases, special features right there if you want to look at that, and all the specs down there at the bottom. And as always, guys, we have the flip out poster right here, Paramount Presents, which is definitely really cool. It's a cool gimmick. I like this. It honestly drew me into the line when it came out back in 2020. You take it out right there. You have the clear case, which I'll show you the front. I'll show you the back. All the same stuff. You got the casting list on here. That's the only difference. Open this up. Now, I do have the Blu-ray in the player back there, so I can only show you the 4K disc right there. No reversible cover arts or anything, but you do have some images, some interior artwork with a quote right there at the top, which is pretty cool. And you got some disc art on here, so I do appreciate that as well. So yeah, I like these releases, guys. I think they're really nice for sure. Now, getting into the special features, I think we only have one new special feature here. No, actually, we have a new audio commentary by the host of the Spaghetti Western podcast, which I haven't heard before. Maybe I need to check them out since I like these spaghetti westerns. But you have a new audio commentary, and you also have a past commentary with contributions from directors John Carpenter, who, of course, directed Halloween, and Assault on Precinct 13 is notoriously kind of a Western remake, a remake of Rio Bravo. And yeah, John Carpenter's on this audio commentary with John Molinas, who directed the Conan movies. And then you got Alex Cox and film historian Sir Christopher Frayling and Dr. Sheldon Hall. And the cast and crew is also on this commentary. So that's probably an excellent commentary. And as far as new like features, you have a new feature with Leonard Maltin, A Look Back, which he's done features for a lot of these. I would say almost all of these at this point. And Leonard Maltin is just such a great a movie reviewer. I guess he was a critic back in the day, but I would say like movie commentator. I just love listening to him talk about movies. Unfortunately, it's only 5 minutes, but I could listen to him talk about Once Upon a Time in the West for literally like an hour if they had that on here. But I get it. He's a busy guy, probably has a lot to do. Can't do an hour, but I love that he does these, and I always find them super fascinating. And I love listening to him because he has such a passion for movies, and he's so incredibly knowledgeable. He's been around for such a long time. I remember the first time I saw Leonard Maltin was in Gremlins 2. So that's how far back I go with Leonard Maltin. I remember him in that. And we also have an opera of violence. And all these are past archival features. The Wages of Sin, Something to Do with Death. You got Railroad, Revolutionizing the West, Locations Then and Now, Production Gallery, and Theatrical Trailer. Now, all of these features, they're all like making of, and they're great. Like I watched a couple of them, and they're about 20 to 28 minutes. So I'd say that's probably about an hour's worth of archival special features. But it's nothing new. The only new thing you got here is that audio commentary, which is cool, and the 5 minutes with Leonard Maltin, which you usually get with all these releases. So I can't say the special features like wow me with one new 5-minute special feature and an audio commentary, but it's nice to at least have something new. And like I said, this release, guys, is going for $30.79. They actually lowered the price point, maybe because they were getting bad reviews and they're like, we better lower this thing down a little bit to be able to sell it to people. But look, guys, at the end of the day, is this a terrible release? Is it worth all the fuss? No, it's not. It looks really good on 4K. It really does. There's always something to nitpick, though, guys. We can nitpick it to death. Does it look as good as it could? No, it doesn't. Am I disappointed? Yeah, a little bit. But I'm still going to watch this one all the time. I'll probably at least watch this another 5 times in my life on 4K. And I'm going to be happy watching it because it's a great movie. And it does look really solid in 4K. So I can still recommend this release on 4K for sure. Like I said, I will link it down below in the description. But thank you all so much for watching. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Comment down below your thoughts on the movie, your thoughts on this release. If you got it and watched it yet, let me know in the comments section below. And we'll see you next time.